On this week's episode, Google changes its tune. Google changes its tune. Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn gets freaky. And Tony Hawk is skating once again. All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, The Lakers Fast Break, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And also, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, send us out some Facebook gaming stars. It is truly appreciated. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He's our own freaky dude of Pop Culture Cosmos. You got to check out what he's doing today at popculturecosmos.com. Also, his great shows, Topicocalypse and the Super BS Gamescast. And of course, his book, Congratulations, You Suck, which you can get today at Barnes & Noble and Amazon. It is my good friend. It is Captain Josh Peterson. What's up, man?
Just cleaning the decks, just making sure the ship is ship shape, checking all the slip knots and the wood splinters and things, just managing the crew, just being Captain Josh today.
Well, that's interesting that you actually picked being captain today, because I want to ask you here in a little bit when we go to Ubisoft, and I'll have you think about this. They are doing they have on tap a pirate game that was hopefully going to be part of this Ubisoft Forward that they recently had, but it wasn't. So I want to hear your thoughts on that and what was there at Ubisoft Forward coming up later in the program. Plus also as well, we're going to talk about DC Fandome. They had another DC Fandome this past weekend. Was it of any real note? We'll talk about that coming up later in the program as well. YouTube Music. Google Play is going bye-bye, and YouTube Music is saying hello to you. We'll talk about the prospects of how big Google Play Music's new venture into YouTube Music can become. Vince Vaughn has got a new role that hopefully will, for him anyways, and his agent, will make him relevant once again. What kind of role is coming out for Vince Vaughn, and what kind of movie is he in? We'll talk about that coming up as he gets freaky later on in the show. Star Trek Discovery on Star Trek Day dropped their latest season trailer for season 3. We'll talk about Star Trek Discovery's future, so to speak, coming up also later in the program. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, the remake is out, and we'll talk about that here on the back end of the show as well. Unfortunately, no Daphne Matthew. She could not make it to this weekend to talk more about The Walking Dead. Hopefully I'll get her on in the future, but there's still a lot of great things to talk about right here today at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But Josh, I know Marcus de la Garza and I touched on it on the PCC Multiverse, which is now available everywhere you get your podcasts on the Pop Culture Cosmos channel. But I know, being our resident Xbox fanboy, you wanted to go ahead and spend some time talking about your impressions of what Xbox debuted in regards to a price, in regards to a release date for the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X. To give everyone an update, if you didn't get a chance to hear Marcus and I earlier on Friday, I want to go ahead and give everybody a shout out that Xbox, after a leak, of course, because I always have to do it after a leak, came out with their prices: Xbox Series S at $299 and Xbox Series X at $499, with an arrival date of November 10th. So now that you know all that, my friend, what are your thoughts on what Xbox releasing is with the all digital only Xbox Series S, and of course the more powerful, in a not too big of a way, it's going to be mainly resolution size when it comes to what the Xbox Series X has to offer as well. Plus, it has the Blu-ray, of course.
So yeah, this was weird to me that they announced the price of the S in a tweet, which was an interesting way to do things. I didn't know that there was a leak, so maybe that's
Yeah,
why
there
they
was a
did it.
leak,
And then they
but
ended up
the night before, actually.
yeah, so then they ended up doing, just letting people know over Twitter what happened, and then they went ahead and the next day announced like what the Series X was going to cost. And meanwhile, PlayStation is getting the opportunity to kind of do a thing, and I think Xbox, there was talk, right, that there's going to be an Xbox conference that was going to, talk more about the games coming up, what we can expect at launch, um, and kind of show off the hardware a little bit more. But now I don't know if they're going to do that. I haven't heard anything. It seemed like kind of a lackluster way to make the announcement. Hitting the prices specifically, I think 299 is a pretty decent price tag for the Xbox Series S, because I know a lot of people, especially the guys from the Super BS Games cast who do the series, they don't buy physical games anymore, so that's the perfect console for them. They download things off Games Pass, and they do like the all the digital sales and all that. If you guys actually go online, right, or onto the live marketplace right now, Ubisoft has a sale. I think it's going on the PlayStation as well. But on that note, going up to the Series X, which does have the disk drive on it, $499. That was about what I thought it was going to be. As about the same price as the Xbox One was, right, at launch, if I remember correctly.
Right around that price, yeah.
Yeah, so that's not totally unexpected. And I know GameStop, if you're having, if you think you're not going to have the funds, I know GameStop had talked about doing like payment plans on it.
I know
I don't.
Xbox has a payment plan where you can go ahead and a bundle price each month. You pay a monthly fee not only for the actual unit but also the Games Pass. It's a whole bundle thing as far as the Games Pass, Xbox Live, and the actual monthly payments towards the console itself.
Oh, geez, yeah, I didn't know anything about that. Yeah, so I mean, I guess like I'm glad to see that they're noticing, the financial struggles that a lot of people are probably still having as a result of Corona and the quarantine and all that. So that's really cool. I'm hoping that they're going to do some kind of like big video conference to give us, because they haven't even told us what's launching with this. Like, we know Valhalla is launching with it. We know that we're getting Gears Tactics at launch, which is already out on the PC. But other than that, there's not really anything that's like for sure has been like solidified as coming out with the console. So I'm hoping that they show us a some kind of reel or something. But I don't know. I think 299 and 499 is a fair price point. I just wish that there would have been a little more like luster in their announcements of this stuff. What are your thoughts, though?
Well, as I said before on Friday, I'm just going to be hesitant to actually get it right away because the fact that there's very little known about launch games that are exclusive to this new platform. I mean, if we're just getting like bumped up res versions of games that are already out, that's not really going to entice me to actually come in and buy right away. And that's the thing. I mean, I don't have a 4K TV. My TV's 1080. So all I can do is maybe get the 299 one because that only goes up to 1440 res, I think, as far as it's concerned. So, I mean, I don't need a 4K
Yeah.
unit yet. And that, so I really don't have the need. Then why would I want to go ahead and get it? Is because of the games. And the games, there's no launch games that are really just saying, I got to go out and get it. I mean, the games that I want from that Xbox conference that they had a couple months ago, they're not coming out until, any time in the future. So until there are actual attractive Xbox Series games that are exclusive, that are not just bumped up versions, I'm going to wait until actually there's that at that point in time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally get that. I know a lot of people. I was talking to, Brank from Super BS, and he's of the same mindset that you are. And as for like Valhalla, it's still going to be released on Xbox One. So if that's like the reason you're buying an Xbox Series X, you might as well just keep on your one until something comes out you do want to play. And
I
on
mean,
the
even
other side,
Halo will come out on the X. They're not going to give up on the Xbox One, at
no,
least with
no,
the next Halo.
yeah, Halo will be coming out. And I know Forza will be coming out, and Fable. Uh, which I'm really excited about those games, of course, but I don't necessarily know. Like, say we have a launch that just has Gears Tactics and Valhalla and maybe a couple other, off off name games. Like, I don't know if that would be enough to push me, which is why I'm curious to see what PlayStation's going to be throwing out. Because if they end up having things at launch that are interesting, I mean, they could very well, get my money should I choose to purchase a console. I know the pre-orders go up on September 22nd.
In and around
So
there.
yeah, and I know, you can fact check me on that. I don't know if that's the for sure date, but I know that like the Amazon pages are live and all that. So I don't know. We'll see. And I know hopefully Sony will do something similar with it now that they've backtracked on the backwards compatibility. Hopefully they'll do something similar to Microsoft in terms of like offering people payment plans, because it would be a real shame if these consoles came out the gate and nobody bought them.
Well, the thing is, though, with PlayStation, I know Xbox has talked about the backwards compatibility, and the backwards compatibility is all the way to the original Xbox. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And that's
For I don't know if it's the whole catalog of games, but I know it's like a lot of the big ones you can, like Crimson Skies, Halo. I know Armed and Dangerous, I think, is on that list.
all the ones that they had done before previously, as far as
Mm-hmm.
that they had delved into. I know that some of them, the older Xbox games, are a nightmare as far as the codes to weed through in order to get them compliant. So I know
Yeah.
if you want the entire original Xbox catalog, that may be a very tough undergoing
Yeah.
for Xbox. But with PlayStation, like you said, backtracking on it, that takes out a big part of what I was looking at it for, as far as back, being able to go back all the way to the original PlayStation. This, even if it doesn't go to the PlayStation 3, that's very disappointing for me, because there's a lot of PlayStation 3 games that I enjoyed over the years that I'd love to revisit. But
Yeah.
with PlayStation, it's same thing. What launch games, what exclusive launch games are coming out for the PlayStation 5 that are only going to be on the PlayStation 5? If I'm just getting bumped up versions of games that I can already get out on the PlayStation 4, that really is not going to ask me to go ahead and, hey, you know what, I want to spend $300 to $500 on a new system. It's not attractive to me. And
Yeah.
that's the problem you have as Sony or Microsoft. You want to go ahead and build a base for your future, but you've got, in the case, especially in the case of PlayStation, over 100 million PlayStation 4 owners out there who are actively still using their PlayStation 4s. Why would you want to give up on that marketplace? So it just seems like this console generation was kind of forced on us, this new one, when it didn't necessarily need to happen. We didn't necessarily were saying, oh yeah, we got to have a next generation. I mean, in time, I'm sure it'll be great, and all these games will be exclusive to it, and the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One will come to pass. But yeah, I understand, and I also understand that these systems on this current generation, it's been out, what, 2014, so it's 6 years,
Mhm.
7 years. Okay, that's getting a little bit up in mileage, but again, these aren't half bad systems even now.
Yeah, I mean, they're still working. They still do what they need to, and as long as they keep creating and publishing games that will work on these consoles, like it's hard to say, like, unless you really are enticing people to buy something new, then I don't think a lot of people are going to. Obviously, you have like your dedicated fan base. You have your Sony fanboys, Xbox fanboys who are going to buy things no matter what. But yeah, it's a crapshoot right now, I guess, in terms of like who's gonna buy what, and do people have the money? Like both Microsoft and Sony are taking a uh pretty big risk here. And I know that Sony, I don't know if they've actually officially announced anything that's coming out at launch. I know there's like Crash Bandicoots, and Spider-Man, but I mean, if that's all there is, then that's it's gonna be a sad day for them as well.
And but again, those are games that are going to be available on the PlayStation 5 most likely as well, correct?
Mhm.
And
Correct. Yeah,
then
and I know.
The Ratchet and Clank game, is that going to be exclusive? We don't know how many of these games are going to be exclusive to these systems. When is this changeover going to happen? When this changeover starts to happen, I will be more inclined to buy it. And I think millions of other people will be inclined to buy it. But as long as it's just this nice convenience thing that right now in the middle of a pandemic is a pretty much a non-necessity for a lot of people out there, I think it's going to fall as far as both systems where it comes to supply and demand. I don't think it will actually get the kind of demand right now that I think that they're both hoping for.
Yeah, well, I think they're both in a bad spot, right? Because like if you don't release games for the older consoles, still people are going to be mad. But if you if you make things only for newer consoles and don't it costs a lot of money. These consoles cost a lot of money. So if you're there's no middle of the road here for them. Like this is the best decision for them right now is to still produce things for the older consoles, because if they don't, you're gonna have a lot of people saying, well, I can't afford to buy this, and you're ruining my gaming.
Well, it's also the fact that you're spending $50 to $200 million on a game, and would you be basing it solely on a next console generation that maybe has 5 million, 10 million units out there at the most by the end of the year? And you're talking about the same thing here. You've got this marketplace was saturated between the two of them, about 150 million units, let's say, out there worldwide.
They're just in a tough spot.
Simple economics, man. It happens every generation, and I get that. But the thing is, with this one, the exclusive titles or the lack of them is the big key issue. Each and every system generation before it had exclusive games to it. Even the Xbox One with what was it, RYSE, and some other games that came out at the time were only available on the Xbox One. They were not available on the Xbox 360. Same thing with PlayStation 4. They had exclusive titles. You don't see that, unless we're going to see something different here within the next few days, or we're going to get announcements over the next few months or next couple of months. We're going to have to, say that right now it's probably safer for most people to say, you know what, I think I'm going to wait a bit on the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, and that's that. In all probability, that'll be what a lot of people end up doing. Again, I would just like to see things become like solidified, right? Like, tell us, put it in paper, have your spokesperson come out and just say this is this. Because even with Microsoft's release dates and stuff, like it's still everything. There's still so many unknowns. So I mean, they need to take those unknowns and make them known before their pre-order page is open, because a lot of people they need to know what they're buying and why they're buying it.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts out there on Xboxes? New Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S coming out November 10th at $299 and $499. And then also what you're hoping for when it comes to PlayStation 5's announcement, the hopefully official announcement, or at least the game showcase that the game showcase that will be coming out later this week. Share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. My friend, DC Fandome ran this weekend. Kind of not the exact, star-studded event that the previous one had. This one focused a lot more like what was expected on the comics, animated shows, and also as well, of course, the CW TV lineup as far as that's concerned. I want to hear your thoughts on DC Fandome this weekend. Did anything catch your eye? I mean, again, it was a lot of TV announcements, a lot of shows coming up there, from Stargirl to the new Superman and Lois to other stuff like that. But really nothing earth-shattering outside of maybe Doom Patrol. They've announced that Doom Patrol got picked up for a third season from HBO Max. So really just not that overwhelming, because even the news of Wonder Woman getting delayed to Christmas, that was announced before the DC Fandome, so they didn't even really give that the news there.
Yeah, did we not see that coming though?
Yeah, we did. We just saw it coming.
So yeah, DC fandom, Doom Patrol season 3 is exciting. I actually really do enjoy that show, despite it being kind of like everything else that's being released right now. I was hoping to hear like a confirmed date for when Titans would be coming to HBO Max. That was the one TV announcement I was hoping for, but we never got that. That is a show I'd like to go back to. And again, I'm always looking for Constantine news. Nothing there really. They talked about Legends of Tomorrow, kind of fell off that show a little bit. What did interest me was the comments from Andy and Barbara Muschetti about the Flash movie. Did you happen to catch any of those?
Just a little bit, but go ahead, bring everybody up to speed on that.
So they had both came out and said, I think Barbara is producing and Andy is the director of the Flash film, the Paradox film. And they kind of talked about it a little bit, saying that it is in fact a soft reboot for the DCU. So they're not erasing what's already been done, but they're bridging the multiverses, and then they're also going to be using as like a new launching pad for the films to come. So I don't know how that contradicts, the rumors we've been hearing with Zack Snyder's Justice League cut and the Man of Steel 2 that could possibly coming out. I don't know how it's going to tie into Black Adam and all that stuff, but this sounds like there's a lot hinging on the success of this film, and that scares me, as far as DC films go, because they have never been, there's always been a hitch somewhere in the DCU train. And I feel like while the Flash could be really great, remember what happened to Spider-Man 3 when they're trying to set up all these alleged movie scripts that Sony was working on? It's blew up in their face a little bit. So that's what concerns me about this, and especially with Warner Brothers' habit of not letting directors do their thing, not letting them direct. Like, that worries me. What are yours though?
Well, I'll tell you from my standpoint, it's kind of funny because DC is in a lot better shape than it was 2 years ago, and we were ripping it everywhere. Yeah, you and I would just spend every week, what can we do today as far as a 15-minute segment to rip on DC? Now they're in a much better spot. I mean, obviously with the success of the Joker, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, they've done a tremendous job of that. But when you look at the organization and somebody putting on a whiteboard right now, as far as trying to, map out exactly what's going on in DC, and then you do the same thing for Marvel, and then you do the same thing for Sony's Spider-Verse. Sony's is still all over there. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
DC, it's all over the place. Marvel is still more organized. That's why ultimately it's right now, even with the near future, might not be as name value as what we might be seeing from DC, name to name, as far as what we're seeing from the Eternals and Shang-Chi, which are relatively unknown to the general public, as opposed to what we're seeing from DC with a Wonder Woman and the Batman, all that. But I will say this, the organization of where Kevin Feige has Marvel going, I think that's somewhere where Warner Brothers needs to go. And whether they want to use Flashpoint as that cleanser to try and go ahead and either, like you said, not totally retcon, but kind of retcon, or to kind of create down and organize this universe, hopefully it will do that. But again, I'm also very concerned that it will not garner the mass appeal of some of the other blockbuster movies that we're seeing right now, because obviously what happened with the first Justice League, if it's not well made, then it could be a disaster for DC and Warner Brothers.
You talking about that just made me think about this, is the fact, what Marvel does really well that DC has just not succeeded in?
Well, outside of organizational skills, I mean,
Well,
they come to class and they got all their notebooks and they've got all their books, right? They're that student that's got all their pencils, papers in there. And then you have like me rolling in there with just, I throw my backpacks and all my stuff comes out of there onto the desk, and there you go.
And this is exactly what I'm about to get at here, is that Disney does not let the comic book writers have anything to do with the films, whereas DC has their comic book writers are heavily involved. Jeff Johns, for example, in that it's got a little scandal going on, but like
Yeah.
Jeff Johns is highly involved, or was highly involved in the production side of the DCU.
Yeah, we'll
And
see how long that lasts.
yeah, but I mean, like, can you imagine, like, if you had somebody who wrote, say, we had Orson Scott Card, right? That he had a pretty famous run on Ultimate Iron Man. Say they put him in front of Iron Man, you know, producing the film. Do you think that it would look the character would look anything like he did in the current MCU?
No, I know,
No.
but then again, that's why Kevin Feige has that background, even going back from the X-Men and all the things that he has a movie background, but he also has a comic fandom and an understanding. Even going to Star Wars, he has a super tremendous, knowledge of the Star Wars universe. That's why he wants to
Right.
get involved with Star Wars. But
Yeah.
he's very organized because he understands the layout of what the movie business is all about already before he even actually stepped into the role. So I think that's what happened with Warner Brothers, is that they didn't have the right people in place in order to go ahead and map this out. Somebody had an idea, they said, let's go with it. Then somebody else had an idea, then so go with it. Instead of that, just one general person to say, okay, we need to go from point A to point Z. And Marvel, it looks like, has that person that, you know what, whatever crazy ideas you throw out of me, that's great, but ultimately it's got to fit into point A to point Z.
Yes. Yeah. Marvel has like one of those maps that has like every stop on the way to the finish line. It has a dot on it, whereas DC did at least just have the start and the finish line. So
Hey, Josh, you got this idea for this Marvel character and you got this great movie idea. That's great. The script, how is it going to fit into the larger narrative?
yeah, yes, and that's not something that is really discussed at DC. It feels like so. Right now DC.
That's why you and I want that Justice League Snyder Cut to really work, because hopefully that will create more interest in providing an overarching narrative that's going to structure and centralize everything, or at least as much as possible with the DC universe.
Yeah, and so like this is, I guess, I'm excited for the Flash paradox, for a Flashpoint film, but I'm also nervous about it because DC is they're in a decent spot right now. You know, their last Birds of Prey was pretty not my favorite, but Shazam was okay. Aquaman is pretty liked by people. Wonder Woman is shaping up to be pretty cool. And then they have the Snyder Cut. Like they're at a point right now where they have a lot of hype for like what's coming out, especially the Rock and Black Adam. So, I just don't want to
Suicide Squad and the Batman both have interest in them. So
so I just don't want to see like the Flash become a cluster. Like we're so focused on a million different storylines instead of really, because a Flashpoint comic, it's a really sad comic. I mean, the story is really, it's emotional. So I would hate to see that taken away from the Flash just so or Warner Brothers can like relaunch a universe, if that makes sense.
well, that's ultimately what may happen with that film, is that it might get so focused on world building that it might forget to tell its own story in and of itself.
Yeah. Yep.
But otherwise, with DC Fandome, again, just a lot of small announcements for their television shows, which leads me to my last question to you, my friend. And I mentioned this on Jessica's show. Jessica Boggs has her own show, and I want to give her a shout out. I stopped by to talk television and wrestling and a whole bunch of stuff when it concerned her show. And one of the things was all these CW shows. And my question to you is, not only with the fact that I thought CW as an existence with HBO Max now being a priority, CW is less and less on the food chain. Maybe that CW should just like fold and go ahead and just evolve into HBO Max, because giving all that content to HBO Max would just make that more enticing. And I think the DC shows especially would be better served by all migrating over to HBO Max.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty decent point, because they are, in fact, most of their programming is going to comic book properties, and it's not just the DC stuff. It's also like the Archieverse and there are various connections to different things. We've come a long way, like long past the days of just throwing on a high school drama, right? Whether it's Gossip Girl or Pretty Little Liars or what was it, Seventh Heaven and Dawson's Creek. Like they don't show things like that anymore. It's all these connected universes. So you can't, and this is the big issue with cable, your weeknight programming anyways. You can't sit down and watch something and feel connected to it anymore because you have to, like, say you want to sit down and watch Legends of Tomorrow, you have no idea what's going on because you have to watch this episode of The Arrow, you have to watch this episode of The Flash, you have to watch 10 episodes of Supergirl. Like it's all so interconnected that it's no wonder it's really hard on the casual TV viewer.
Absolutely. And it's just a bigger issue, I think, there. So that's why I'm asking, Warner Brothers and, whatnot, to just go ahead, take everything off the CW. I mean, the CW at this point, how much longer can you accept these 0.1s and 0.2s? If there's not enough people watching to sustain itself, why sustain it? All this programming would be great on HBO Max and other platforms, but again, that's just my thoughts on it. That's Josh thought. Josh has his thoughts as well. If you have your thoughts on the future of the CW, let us know. Plus, also, do you think all these DC shows should migrate over to HBO Max? And of course, what happened this weekend at DC Fandome? We'd love to hear your thoughts on all these great DC subjects. Share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, coming up, Josh and I are going to talk about Ubisoft, YouTube Music, and Vince Vaughn getting freaky. That's coming up after the break. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald Glassford along with my good friend, Captain Josh Peterson. Arr! Just want to go ahead and talk about Ubisoft right now because they had their little forward conference, which they're doing now and on a regular basis. So I asked you, my friend, was anything exciting to you, like the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake or the announcement that Gods and Monsters is no more? It's now Immortals Phoenix Rising, which I would have kept Gods and Monsters. But anyways, Scott Pilgrim versus the World's getting a remake. There's Riders Republic. Far Cry is going VR. Some good, decent little stuff that was out there. But was there anything that was like earth-shattering to you other than the fact that Gods and Monsters is now Immortals Phoenix Rising, which is coming out this December?
I was going to make a joke and say, was it Ubisoft forward or Ubisoft backwards?
Oh.
No, but no, I mean, it was nothing like crazy. I'm always interested in more details about Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Watch Dogs Legion is still like my, the hype meter slowly like, ticking its way up to the top line there. Far Cry excited about. So going down this list here, Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake. Was it a remake that I wanted? No. Is it a remake that I could be interested in? Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't think it's a remake I'd want to pay $60 for, but if it came out at like $30, yeah, I'd play it. And even looking at it, it's just the source code for the game is so old now. Like you look at the graphics, they're nothing fantastic. It still looks like a very polished Xbox 360 game. So I mean, yes, I am going to play it, but it's I don't know, it's not something I'm like crazy stoked about. Scott Pilgrim versus the World, or actually, what are your Prince of Persia? Do you have any desire to go back to this universe?
Not really. I mean, maybe the older game version at a lot cheaper, but I don't really. See, I don't mind going back in time to get a much less expensive version of that, unless it's something like, let's say, Mass Effect trilogy. We've been waiting for eons now, and they said we're going to bring out this remake, and it's going to do, it's going to clean up a lot of the things that you didn't like about the first game. Okay, I'm in. I'm sold there. But with something I have fond memories of with Sands of Time, that I could just go back to the original version of. I really don't need a cleaned up version of it. It just depends. Me pick and choose on the nostalgia that if I want to go ahead and see a cleaned up version of it or not.
Yeah, it's crazy to me to think that this was released almost 20 years ago. But you know what I really would have loved to see? Remember back, I think it's like 2000, what was it, 2007, 2008? Like they were going to reboot the Prince of Persia series using like the game that featured all watercolors. I was really excited about that game and I really loved it, but they never back to that universe, never revisited it. And that kind of bummed me out a little bit.
Well, I guess the most important thing as far as the new game announcement that was there, my friend, was Gods and Monsters No More. It is now called Immortal Phoenix Rising, which again, I would have just said Gods and Monsters and kept it that way, but who am I?
So yeah, this one it was like I liked Gods and Monsters. Like it gave it and because it has a very cartoony look to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just I like the color palette, but I don't like how it looks. It has the look of like I guess like a mix between the old like Jade Empire looking characters and kind of an anime game. Will I still play? Yeah, I'll probably still play it. I think that Gods and Monsters was a better title. Immortals Phoenix Rising kind of makes it sound like one of those PC games that you may or may not play, but probably won't play. So that was, I don't know. Do you have any audible hype rolling around for that game?
Not really. I mean, it looks okay, but then again, it looks okay. But which me, I'm not going to spend that kind of money on something that's okay. I mean, you're in my hype meter on a lot of other games right now that are coming around October, November, December, Cyberpunk 2077, Call of Duty, Cold War, which not only you and I talked about, but Marcus and I talked about. Marcus is him and his friends are getting back into the game after years of not playing it. You and I have talked about getting back into it after years of not playing it. This, that's a $60 investment you and I want to make. Immortal Phoenix Rising looks okay, but just okay for $60 isn't going to cut it anymore.
Yeah, well, and it looks like one of those games where you'll play for, I don't know, 12 hours maybe, and then it just the world does not look like there's enough there yet. And maybe I just need to see more about it, but it's I don't know. I look at something like Assassin's Creed. I guess that's what I compare all Ubisoft games to: Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs, and those have massive open worlds. But this one looks like it's kind of a lot. The experience is a lot smaller.
Yeah, absolutely. So nothing earth-shattering. A lot more DLC. Sam Fisher coming to Rainbow Six Siege, which is a game that's seemingly going to go on forever because they've had such a great success with it. But they're just some good, decent announcements at Ubisoft's Forward, Far Cry 6 update and all that, but nothing really earth-shattering outside of the announcement of a new remade Immortal Phoenix Rising out of Gods and Monsters, which Josh and I would have kept the name, but oh well, be that as it may. I mean, if any of the stuff that we talked about interests you, especially Immortal Phoenix Rising, we want to hear your thoughts on why Immortal Phoenix Rising is standing out to you. And if it's not, we want to hear why as well. Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com.
I have one more question for you. Do you think that since they have not talked about Beyond Good and Evil 2 in so long that it's going to become like another Skull and Bones where they just kind of don't talk about it for like 5 years and they come back and say, oh, by the way, this is happening still?
Absolutely, because Skull and Bones I was much more interested in, and Beyond Good and Evil 2. I know a lot of people were really looking forward to that game. Maybe next year at E3, but then again, at this point in time, it's going to be one of those things that they're going to pull out just after years of being dormant seemingly, and just say, oh, there it is, it's coming here in a few months, there you go. And that's the problem. It's going to be this situation where they're not continually updating people on it. I really hope they haven't ditched Skull and Bones, because that's the one I really wanted to play from Ubisoft the most.
Yeah, well, I was reading an article. They're actually like, it sounds like they're rebuilding it. Like they're going away from the strictly ship combat to kind of making a more pirate-like RPG. So that it could be exciting. I mean,
that would be better. Yeah,
that would be better.
Yeah.
And I like that concept as opposed to like I was really excited about Sea of Thieves, but it's all online. So they had like a pirate RPG that I could play by myself. I would be pretty stoked on that.
Well, share us your thoughts. If that's what you're looking for from Ubisoft and the future going forward, let us know. Popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, Google Play Music is going bye 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 bye, and say hello to YouTube Music, which has already got 500 million downloads as far as on the App Store and all that. So a lot of people are already transitioning over. I know Nancy Weems wanted us to talk about it, and it's something that, you know what, after I saw the numbers, 500 million already transferring over to it, it seems like of the many things that Google has, done lately, Stadia, Stadia, that have not worked out, that this might be something a lot of people might get interested in, because attaching the YouTube name and the YouTube success story that it is, attaching that music portion of it, especially the fact that I guess podcast wise, because our people ask us, are you guys on Google Play, music all the time? Are you guys on Google Podcasts and all that? Combining a lot of that into YouTube Music and that format and all that might be the best way to go, and combining into one platform, because YouTube is their most successful outlet, and putting Google Play Music and blending that in, hopefully even Google Podcasts as well, into one format, a YouTube Music, and combining that name, I think is the right way to go.
Yeah, Google is one of those companies that has like too many eggs in the basket. Why do so many things separately when you can kind of come together? It's the same thing with like Facebook and Instagram, and I don't know who owns TikTok these days, or nobody, it would seem. But yeah, if they, instead of competing with each other, they should just combine them. I do all my music off of iTunes still, so I have never used YouTube except to like check out a music video that somebody posted. But it does seem like a better idea to combine everything into one place. And Google Play, especially, I know, is a huge place for podcasters. So that would make sense. And I don't know if Google competes necessarily with iTunes, but if they were to all bring all their branding together into one thing, they could very well give iTunes a run for their money.
Absolutely. I think it's something that, as a repositioning, usually we're kind of like standoffish on sometimes on a lot of the stuff. But I think if they combine all their assets as far as audio wise into a YouTube Music platform, I think that's the best decision for them going forward. And I look forward to seeing more from YouTube Music and hearing more from YouTube Music here in the not too distant future, because I think that type of platform is going to be the best one for Google users. Well, not just Google, but Android users and anybody else who wants to be interested in the service going forward, because anybody who really utilizes YouTube, they associate a lot what they do with YouTube, and having YouTube Music is probably the best way to go.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like the best choice. I know a lot of people subscribe to YouTube Premium just to be able to listen to music without having to worry about commercials popping up. So, yeah, this could be the best path moving forward for them.
Hopefully people will get into it too. Again, there's over 500 million people that have already switched over to YouTube Music, and it looks like that the switch over from Google Play Music is going to be a good one for Google. What are your thoughts out there on YouTube Music? Is it something you're now getting into? Is it a switch that you'd like to have made? Or is it a switch that you're going to make from Google Music to YouTube Music? And is it one that you're really into? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, I wanted to ask you real quick if you saw the trailer for Freaky, because Vince Vaughn's career has not gone in the right direction since Wedding Crashers. It's kind of gone a little bit downhill. Dodgeball was, obviously a great movie for him and a great vehicle. but his career's kind of been on the stall and a little bit of a decline as of late in this decade. So I want to ask your thoughts on Freaky, which could be a comeback vehicle for him. It's from the It's from Bloomhouse, who makes all these low budget, high profit type films, and this horror movie. I think this is what's the hey my friend, what's the horror movie that does that they made before? The people that made this movie also made the movie that she has the really bad day, and it's like the Groundhog Day over and over. That's a horror movie. You're on mute.
It's Happy Death Day.
Yeah, Happy Death Day. That's right. That's right. And then they had Happy Death Day to You. Yes, for the makers of Happy Death Day, it is Freaky, where a teenage girl and a serial killer that's around the town, aka Vince Vaughn, they magically switch places. I guess she is attacked by this killer, but somehow something goes wrong, something goes awry, or some ritual is performed, or something happens that automatically switches them both. He becomes her, she becomes him. They switch bodies and all that. So she ends up going to high school and trying to, shocker upon shockers, my friend, goes to try and kill off all of her fellow students with him, with Vince Vaughn and a couple of, I guess, teenage characters who finally believe that it's actually the girl inside his body trying to go ahead and save the school. So I want to hear your thoughts as a comeback vehicle for Vince Vaughn. I think this is great. It looks really funny, and it looks really enjoyable. And it's something that, if it was, again, one of these Blumhouse low budget, high return types investments, this could be another big hit for them.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the trailers for it. It sounds funny. Like, it sounds like it's got like a hot chick type scenario to it. Yeah. I mean, I would be interested in watching this. I heard that it was a horror movie, but it sounds like it's more of like a
well, it's a Freaky Friday. It's a Freaky Friday. It's a Freaky Friday slasher movie. It's a slasher movie. So
it's a horror comedy. So yeah, I mean, this definitely sounds like something I could be interested in. It seems like Vince Vaughn would be the right person to play that part. Having the whole
body switching.
Being a woman trapped in a man's body, like that sounds like that's like right up his him being able to portray what that would be like would be kind of right up his alley.
And he's trying to convince the friends that she's taken over. She's in his body, so she has to do the cheerleading scenes because she's a cheerleader. So she's doing the cheerleading scenes and that, as far as for the high school, and you see her as a killer, with Vince Vaughn in her body, and it's really amusing. It's a really novel concept, an interesting way to go, because you and I have seen these horror movies done to death in a certain fashion. Kill off A, B, C, and D, kill off all the teenagers, end of story. And Happy Death Day to You and Happy Death Day were a very interesting approach in the Groundhog Day type format. So this is another look at that type of horror genre in a different format. So I'm really intrigued to see how Vince Vaughn and Freaky is going to work with audiences. I think it is. I think it really is. I think it's a great way to get him back into the limelight. And this is one of those very low investment with a potential high return that we've seen from Blumhouse do. I mean, this could be one of those, like, again, $10, $15 million cost or even less type formats. And yet it could receive, even in a pandemic, could still receive a high return.
Yeah, and it seems like a movie that doesn't really take itself or it's aware of itself, which makes it even better, because that's what, like, Happy Death Day was, very aware of itself, and that's what kind of made that movie enjoyable.
Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to getting freaky in Vince Vaughn's upcoming horror movie coming out later this year. Well, scheduled to anyways. Whether or not it actually does, we'll wait and see. But if you've caught the Freaky trailer yet, please let us know. What are your thoughts on Vince Vaughn's new movie Freaky coming out in the not too distant future? If you're interested in this horror movie with a different type of feel, actually a different Freaky Friday type feel? We'd love to hear your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, just a couple more things to hit on before we head on out, and that was Star Trek Discovery Season 3. It was another deal like DC Fandome this weekend where it wasn't a lot of news coming out of Star Trek Day. I mean, people ask me, why weren't you doing Star Trek? Why weren't you covering Star Trek Day on the PCC Multiverse? Because that was originally what was going to be there, but there was so much news, I had to bump it to the Monday show. Because Star Trek Day as a whole, even though it was a full day dedicated to everything Star Trek, didn't produce that much in the way of new trailers or anything of that nature outside of Star Trek Discovery Season 3, which a lot of people were really excited for because Season 3 has the Star Trek Discovery crew going hundreds of years in the future, into 3100 in some odd year, something like that. Some far off distant future where the Federation is, the way that's been structured is totally disbanded or destroyed, and it's something that leads you to feel that the Star Trek Discovery crew has a really great mission now ahead. I think it's a great way to go ahead and refresh a new timeline. I'm assuming that they'll get back to their own timeline at some point in time, but Star Trek Discovery Season 3, I mean, with Star Trek Discovery 1 actually heading to CBS this fall, because CBS has decided to go ahead and run the Season 1 shows now. Is this something that could get you finally interested in Star Trek?
It sounds interesting. I have a thing. I don't know if it get me personally interested, because I have a thing where I would have to go back and watch, seasons 1 and 2.
I'm trying to entice you, man.
I know. Maybe I'll give it a watch. Like when it comes out, I'll sit down and watch a couple episodes and just see if it like latches on. Because I also know that if it does, I'm gonna have to go backwards and watch the whole show, just because I have an obsession with continuity.
Well, CBS again is picking up Season 1 because of the fact that they don't have a full slate of fall TV shows coming out in the fall. They're having to delay because of coronavirus and production issues and things of that nature. So what they're doing, like many other of these networks, as I spoke about on Jessica's show, is that they're picking up things like from the CBS All Access. They are picking up Discovery Season 1. So people will be able, if they didn't catch it on All Access, to see Discovery Season 1 on CBS free of charge. So hopefully that'll be a way for you can get into it and others can get into it, because I think it's a good series, a really good series. I think Season 2 especially was a lot better. Season 1 was pretty good as well. So especially the back end. So I'm giving people a shout out there. If you really want to get into what's going on with Star Trek Discovery, it would be a great time to go ahead and start with the CBS. Well, just the CBS network this fall with covering Star Trek Discovery Season 1. So you can get more into that, get hopefully a free months of access, CBS All Access, so you can go ahead and catch up Season 2, and then when Season 3 comes out, you'll be all ready. But yeah, I'd like to see everybody start to get more into it, because I think it's a show that's very well made and very deserving of your time.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I would like to watch. Like I as I've said before, I did really enjoy the Star Trek films that came out, the J.J. Abrams movies, or the one that started with his. So yeah, it's a world I could see myself falling into. I just would need I would need time to go back and like get the backstory.
Well, there you go. Hopefully a lot of people will get into it as well. Are you interested out there in Star Trek Discovery Season 3, or just going back into Star Trek Discovery Season 1 on CBS this fall? Share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com, plus also as well Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. And while it's still alive, TikTok too. My friend, before we head on out, it's been a great episode, talking a lot of great things. I want to go ahead before we head on out, my friend, speaking of video games that we love to talk about, I didn't talk about with all the releases and, of course, Marvel Avengers and all the stuff that was going on. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, the remake came out. And Tony Hawk Pro Skater one of the most beloved games of right around the turn of the century, as far as it's concerned, and a game that was extremely highly rated, one of the highest rated games of all time, is something that a lot of people were very wary of when Activision said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and redo 1 and 2. Well, they have done a great job with Pro Skater 1 and 2. I've seen all the reviews, seen a lot of videos already, and my gosh, man, the half pipe has never looked better, because even with Skater XL and a new skate, Pro Skater 1 and 2 matches up very well with both of them. And that's really cool for a remade game from that's 20 years old, virtually.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. I mean, the game looks gorgeous. I've heard, I have to wait till I get my next paycheck before I buy it, and I'm really excited to play it. But I have heard good things from a lot of people. The ratings are coming out pretty solid. Brank from Super BS is really loving it, and I guess it's there are some like mechanics that have been added into the game that aren't quite that haven't been in the original, but it only adds to the game itself. And like, yeah, I'm really excited to go back and play these games. I hope that's, I get that feeling of nostalgia before, but from what I understand, like you can sit there and play it, and it probably takes a good 3 or 4 hours to get through each game. So I think that $40 is definitely worth the price tag, but I'm sure even with holiday sales coming out, you'll be able to find it even cheaper. Did you get a chance to pick it up, or do you have plans to?
I'm thinking about it. This one is a definite buy, or close to definite buy for me, because I'm really interested to see what went on, because I kind of got out of Tony Hawk's early on, the Pro Skater, series. I kind of got out in the mid 2000s after I played a couple of them. So I'm really looking to get back into it again, and something that I am somewhat familiar with. I'm very intrigued on going back into this world. So we'll wait and see. I may be plucking down $40 here in the not too distant future, because the reviews are very good on it. They're not as high as the 100s and 99s and 98s that are a lot of people were giving out at that point in time, but giving out for what, 8s, 9s that I see all over the place for this. Even some people calling it one of the best remakes ever. That I think that this is something that a lot of people who, if you are at all interested in as far as the Tony Hawk series, you should put your money into.
Yeah. I mean, it's $39.99 right now, and you guys can pick it up, play it, let us know what you think about it. But yeah, it's something that I am excited about. I wonder, I know the Tony Hawk series kind of lost its luster around like Tony Hawk 4 or 5 or something like that. So I wonder if, there will be future remakes, maybe a 3 and 4. And, I don't know how much interest there will be in something going forward from that point, but it makes me like look back and think that like, yeah, it would be fun to have like a remake of like 1080 snowboarding and Amped, and
What about American Wasteland?
American Wasteland would be good. Do you remember those ESPN Extreme games where you had like the luge and the skateboard and the bicycle, and you could like punch and kick?
Yep.
Yeah, I would. This has got me thinking. Like, I'd love remakes of those games too, because I got a lot of fond memories playing those on the PlayStation.
Well, I'm looking forward to giving that a try. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 a try. I know Josh is as well. And if you're interested in that, or you would love to see a future for Tony Hawk Reborn once again, either a new game in the series, or which of the games in the Tony Hawk series, because there's a ton of them, which of them would you like to see remastered? I know some I wouldn't. I definitely know some I wouldn't, but there are some that are still worth remastering. I want to hear your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. Just thank you so much again, as always. Marcus de la Garza will be on with me on Thursday's show, because I know you've got still much more work to do. So I know you got a lot on your hands this week, but I wanted to go ahead and give a shout out again to everybody that's watching, everybody that's listening, and of course, everybody that gives us some love on our popculturecosmos.com page, because every time we put out something on the popculturecosmos.com page, we always get likes there from a lot of great people. And these are the same people month in, month out, year in, year out. And a couple of them have been doing it now for years. So I want to go ahead and give those folks some shout out that follow us on the Pop Culture Cosmos website, popculturecosmos.com. So I want to thank you so much. But Josh, it's been a great episode. Any last thoughts on the way out?
Yes. I do want to talk about Raised by Wolves eventually. I watched the first episode, and
Oh, you
it's a
did?
very
What
dark
time?
show.
It is a very
Very,
dark
very
show.
It's good. It's intriguing. I want to know more. It's one of those like sci-fi shows where like I can't at this point predict what's going to happen. And perhaps that's the mark of a great show. Perhaps it's the mark of a show that doesn't know what they're, where they're going themselves until they get there. But it's it's got me interested. If I had to rate the first episode, I'd give it like an 8. I think it's
There you
pretty
go.
solid.
I was just right under that, about 7.5 and 8, but it was still very good, very solid. It's got me intrigued into watching the rest of the series, and I know more episodes are out. How about The Boys, man? Have you caught up on The Boys?
No, that's my next one. I just finished Umbrella Academy season 2 this week, so The Boys is my next in the queue.
All right. Well, you
Excited
should
to
be
watch it.
catching. Okay. Well, you should be catching up on that, my friend, because that one has been pretty good. A lot of world building because they now know that they've got security of being an established TV show. So they're doing a lot of world building, character building. But episode 3, man, was still killer for me. So if you get a chance, check out The Boys. I know a lot of people are upset and review bombing The Boys simply because they're mad that it didn't all come out at once. So when you've got a show that people are mad that is coming out every week, like TV shows used to come out, then you know you're doing something right. So The Boys is a big hit for Amazon, and yeah, it's just too funny to see that people are getting mad that it's coming out on a weekly basis now. Oh man.
People got spoiled with the just a binge.
Unfortunately, in the middle of a coronavirus and you production delays left and right, you're going to see a lot of this going forward. At least at least until the end of the year, you're going to see this spaced out week after week. So people are going to have to get used to it, at least for the short term. A couple of years from now, it's hopefully we'll all go back to normal. But at least for the not too distant future, the world is going to be a little different. So, you know what? We just appreciate again you watching, you listening, and thanking for you for being part of the pop culture cosmos. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the pop culture cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great